Hello and welcome to Power Up Talk Show, a talk show where we bring together community leaders, inspirational people that are making an impact in our community. Before I invite our amazing guest, a friend, I'm going to always like to shift it over to Dion Bass, Songbird Cocktails.
Thank you,
Dion,
Sandy.
how are you?
Thank you, Sandy. I'm doing great. With summer around the corner, I love doing these light and refreshing drinks. It's actually where I really shine at. And today I have an elevated gin and tonic, a new take on an old classic. So we're gonna start out with a little bit of citrus. We don't wanna add too much acid to a gin and tonic, but I find that it does help. Then when you add a little bit of acid, you wanna add a little bit of sweet. Now keep in mind, if your birthday ends in a month that ends in Y, this has absolutely no calories for you. And then
That's why we like him.
We're gonna add our chartreuse next. And lastly, of course, you can't have a gin and tonic without gin. La, 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 la. All right, so once we've added all of our ingredients, what we'll do is we'll give this a good old Taylor Swift. All right, a little pour.
That looks so good, so good, so good, so good. You had me at gin.
Now, the wonderful thing about light and refreshing is that it doesn't weigh you down. And if you're in a pool, like these are great for pool parties. And lastly, we are going to add some elderflower tonic water. It's this tonic water with a hint of elderflower, which is just a wonderful aromatic. It's a wonderful floral flavor, and it really just does the trick. And here we have it, ladies, our elevated gin and tonic.
Cannot wait, Dion.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm excited to announce and to introduce my next guest. She has just really touched me. We met just a few years ago. She is a mother, an amazing mother, and she also is the boot camp queen of Omaha, Nebraska for Self-Care Bootcamp. Sondra Dubas, thank you for being on here.
Thank you for having me.
My heart is full. She has touched so many lives. She has such an amazing story, and her journey has touched other women, and we're going to touch on that today and on her boot camps and just on her journey. Sondra, it's so nice to see you again. She was a speaker for Women with Voices last year and just really was vulnerable and courageous and just shared her story with the whole world. And then she also was a summit speaker for Live Your Wise Summit. Please share with the audience just your journey of strength and courage, and it's a great one, so don't get up. Listen. Share, everyone.
Well, I first of all have to thank you, Sandy, because you are so much a part of my journey in recent years, and I'm so excited to be showing up in my TV debut as a blonde.
Woohoo! She's a blonde, ladies and gentlemen. There's a purpose behind that.
Yeah, and so I'll explain why that's actually significant, because I wasn't a blonde yesterday, and I might not be a blonde tomorrow, but I am today for the first time really ever in my life.
Wow.
So,
well, it looks good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's kind of fun. It's my new summer color. Yes, so, I'll go back to where our journey started, and then I'll go a little further back from there. But when I met you, really got to know you about probably a year and a half ago, I was in a really critical kind of transitional place in my life. I had just been downsized from a corporate career. My husband had gone through a very significant health journey, and I was really in this place of trying to figure out, where do I go next? And I had just come off of this job that was very fulfilling in terms of my bank account, but not fulfilling to my soul. And I started coming to your events, and I saw the women telling their stories, and Then I went on this amazing yoga retreat in Greece. And I took a lot of those stories that I had heard from your events in my heart, and it really empowered me to like step into my bravery and do some things that were really scary, and then just take it from there. So I'll come back to describing that moment, but going back a little further, so yes, I'm a mom. I have two teenage daughter and a 22-year-old. I've just celebrated my 33-year wedding anniversary. So I've been married to my high school sweetheart for a very long time. And I spent a lot of time in corporate America. My vision when I left my little town that I grew up in was to make it big in the corporate world. And I did that. And I spent a lot of time in corporate boardrooms, traveling around the country, doing successful sales. And then a tragic life situation happened, and it took me away from that game for a while. My daughter was born with a heart condition, and so she had a stroke during an open heart surgery, and my life turned upside down. And so I decided to leave my corporate career, be more present for my girls, for my family, but I needed to be doing something fulfilling. So I started a nonprofit organization with another wonderful woman. It's called Heart Heroes. It's alive and well today, supporting children with heart defects. I wrote a book about my daughter's journey, and took about a 10-year period of time to like really focus on all of these things that I never knew that I really wanted to do. I did some mission work. I traveled. I became a yoga instructor. I got a health coaching certification. All of these things that when I was wrapped up in my corporate career, like I didn't even know these parts of myself, that I was longing for these things. I used to sit there and think, there must be something more for me, but I don't really know what it is. And so this life tragedy, this circumstance, kind of took me into this place that I got to explore and figure that out. So then I found myself back in a corporate job for a couple of years, and I realized that my heart was feeling the tug. Like I was not doing what I was fulfilled to do. So going back then to the point in time that I met you, and I went on the yoga retreat, I decided it was time to step into what I really am passionate about. And so before the pandemic, I had actually been hosting these self-care boot camps in my basement. And we would do yoga, and we would do some breath work, and we would do some self-care things and journaling, and just spend time in the company of other women who were starving for self-care and taking care of everybody else in their lives, but maybe not taking care of themselves, which I find is so common for us as women. And so 15 or so women would show up in my basement, and we would do these Saturday afternoon events, and it was amazing. And then, of course, during the pandemic, I had to set those things aside. I went back into corporate. And so it kind of all came together when I was on this amazing retreat in Greece. I was with my daughter and my mom, and we were with about 20 some other ladies on this beautiful island in Greece. And the part about my story that is significant with respect to why I'm blonde today is through this whole journey of caring for my daughter with special needs and taking care of all my clients in my careers and jobs that I was in, I discovered that I had an autoimmune condition. And that autoimmune condition is alopecia. It was a 17-year journey of losing my hair, small pieces at first that were very disguisable, which eventually became pretty undisguisable and led me about 7 years to beginning to wear full wigs. So I have an amazing friend that has a wig company, Tracy Corwin with Restore Beauty. And she's amazing, and she's been telling me for years that I need to do blonde, and I'm finally got there. But so this journey of hair loss for me was very difficult. It brought with it a lot of hiding, a lot of disguising, and just a lot of fear about what people would think and how I would explain this condition that I had. So when we went on this retreat to Greece, I was kind of at the precipice of my acceptance around the hair loss. I was becoming more comfortable talking about it, but wasn't really comfortable like being in public or out in the open without hair.
Yeah.
And so we went on this retreat. My daughter wanted to go on a yacht cruise in the Aegean Sea. And I resisted at first. I was like, I knew that there would be some things that would be uncomfortable that I would have to overcome. And so at first I resisted, and she begged me, like, please, let's go on this yacht. So we did. Most of the women that were on this trip did not know about my hair loss. And I had this fancy yoga wig with a ponytail that, you know, I could wear when I did the yoga classes. So I was really challenged with, well, what am I going to do when we're on this yacht and maybe we are going to swim or go into the water, and what is that going to look like for me? And so that time came when we were presented with the opportunity to paddleboard and swim in the ocean. And my daughter really wanted to go in, and she's like, Mom, come jump in with me. And I froze.
Yeah.
And I had in that moment this decision to make. Do I stay on the boat and stay safe under my scarf and my hat where nobody knows what's going on underneath? And how will I feel years from now when I look back on this moment, and will I regret being safe? Or do I take it off and just be 100% fully vulnerable and jump in with her? And you know the answer to this story. I did what I had never done. I handed my mom the hat and the scarf, and I jumped into the Aegean Sea with my daughter. And it makes me emotional every time I tell the story because it was such a transformative moment for me. The water was so freezing. I came up and I was just screaming. And I wanted to automatically escape. Like I wanted to swim to the boat and get out. And then something really amazing happened. There was just this sudden calm, and my body warmed, and I'm like, I can stay here. I can do this.
Right here, right here,
Yes.
right here. Yes, yes, yes. It's beautiful.
And, you know, so much of my fear was, what are these other women going to think? And they're going to ask me questions, and I'm going to have to explain. Nobody asked anything. Nobody said anything. But for me, it was the most transformative moment in my life because something in me changed in that moment. And I knew that I had this calling to step out there and help other women that are going through the hair loss journey, but also help other women who need the nudge to be brave, to do what their heart is calling them to do, and to just step into their greatness. And so you know what happened, but I came home and I started doing talks, and I started taking my wig off in, you know, the talks that I was doing. And I hosted a monthly self-care bootcamp event for women every month. I've had one every month since that point in time. And I just completed my 3rd weekend self-care bootcamp sold out retreat.
Woohoo! We're going to celebrate. Oh my gosh. Ladies, do you understand the courage this beautiful soul had to do? I mean, okay, it's hard, right? We don't look good. We don't have lipstick on. Our hair's not done. But to go and take off that wig and that freedom to be humility, right, is huge. And the bravery and the challenge that all of us have. And you don't want that person to be alone that's living through that. I don't want any women to be alone. And that's why I started with Women with Voices. But you did it, right? We talk about it, we think about it, but you jumped the boat. She jumped the boat. And now she is a speaker on this, and she does just incredible speeches on finding your courage and just sharing with the world that you can do it. Wow. All right. Tell us the freedom part. Tell us how your life has changed since you went out, you took off your wig. I mean, honestly, she's not going to do it all the time, but the freedom that she did it, what's next for you? What freedom did you receive, and the freedom that you're going to give others?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I didn't realize the burden that I was carrying. And the burden was really all about the hiding. It was so exhausting to hide this challenge that I was going through. And I see that time and time with women that I am now coaching and interacting with. Is just there's so much grief and just sadness, and there's a great sense of loss. And so for me, the freedom came from the acceptance that there may not be anything that I can do about changing this situation, but it doesn't have to stop me from living my life. I don't have to sit on the sidelines. I can find strategies to deal with this. And sometimes it has taken being just really, really uncomfortable. And we don't like to be uncomfortable. Yes. We don't want to be uncomfortable. I mean, we're designed, for comfort.
Yeah.
Our bodies
comfort
strive
food,
for
comfort sweatpants,
yes.
comfort robe.
Right.
That's just our normal.
Yeah. And so, I think for me, it's been going through this experience myself to then be able to empathize and appreciate and understand what other women are going through. And it's not always hair loss. Excuse me. It may be something else. We have a lot of issues with our self-image.
Yes.
And a lot of challenges in our lives. And, that was the thing that I saw this last weekend at the retreat that I led. And it's what I've seen at every one of the retreats and events that I've led, excuse me, is beautiful things happen when women can come together and open their hearts and be brave and be vulnerable and support each other. And so this last weekend at the Bloom retreat that we had, there were 11 lovely ladies that took the brave choice of showing up for this retreat. Most of them showed up alone, not knowing anybody at this retreat. And I saw women come in that were tired, lonely, overwhelmed, stressed out. And one of the most common things I heard was, I just don't even know myself anymore. Mm-hmm. And that touches my heart because I felt that way for a long time in the most vivid way, because I would look at myself in the mirror without the hair, without the eyebrows and the eyelashes. And it was like, who is this person staring back at me? Like, she's not the big hair 80s girl
yeah.
that I grew up, being. It was a real identity crisis. But I believe that I was given this challenge to teach me how to accept it, overcome it, embrace it, because a lot of other women are going through that same sort of identity challenge. It might not be because their hair has fallen out, but it's because life has been hard and they've been through challenges and circumstances, or they're still going through those things, and they've forgotten who they are. They don't know what even they want anymore, or who they want to be. And so the most beautiful, just heartwarming thing for me was to watch this group of 11 ladies this last weekend leave there smiling and dancing and full of joy and with new friends. Yes. Like, the bonds that happen are amazing. And so over and over and over, I see this, and it's evidence to me that as women, we need each other to be in community. I mean, in ancient times, women would sit around in circles and support each other, and they helped care for each other's children and, cook meals. And we're so isolated now in our own homes and our own lives that oftentimes women just don't have that support.
I see that with Women's Voices, right? It
Yes.
started shortly after the pandemic. The loneliness, and women take so much more levels of stress that if you were already feeling alone, that loneliness just tripled. And it's that source of community. I public speak about it, right? I public speak about building your community, living your purpose and your passion, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? Like, in 5 years, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Like, what is your next step? You've done a lot since I met you, and you're just climbing up the mountain. What more? Tell us. What would you like to do? What's up your sleeve? What's going on?
It's really about growing and expanding this Self-Care Bootcamp platform, and really a full model of what I call self-first. and just really teaching women and empowering women to put ourselves first. And there's a great book by Mastin Kipp called Claim Your Power. And he talks in his book, it's like really sort of been a guiding light for me, because he talks in his book about how, and I think this is especially true for women, we've been taught, many of us have been taught, that there's sort of a hierarchy of where we fall as ourselves. And oftentimes it's you put God first, you put others, and you put yourselves last. And his permission is to flip that and to put yourself first, a relationship with your creator, and then others. And I really look at it as it's about self-preservation. And I think for me, going through this journey of being a caregiver for my daughter and, you know, taking care of all of my clients in corporate America and always giving, always caring, and not putting myself first ever, I really believe that that's a big part of what led me on this autoimmune journey. I remember sitting many years ago, long before I had autoimmunity, I was sitting in my doctor's office having a routine checkup. And I was very healthy at the time. I was in the pinnacle of my career. And she looked at me and she said, "Sondra, you know that your husband is going to live longer than you, right?"
Wow.
And that was my reaction. I was like, "Why would you say that? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm healthy. Like, what? There's nothing wrong with me." She was trying to send me a message that if I didn't slow down and stop spinning all of the plates and take care of myself, that there would be ramifications coming. And at the time, you know, I was on the go. I was getting up at 4 a.m., going to the gym, getting to the office by 8, stopping at, you know, the coffee shop on the way for, you know, a latte. A latte with a triple shot and, you know, a scone. And I would maybe grab something from the vending machine at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd go home and take care of my kids. And I would numb at night with a couple glasses of wine. And that was my lifestyle for a lot of years. And I know that that's true for a lot of women too. We caffeinate to keep ourselves going. We numb in whatever ways we need to numb. We shut down the feelings that we have. We repress feelings and we just keep going. And so I look back on those words that my doctor shared with me, and they kind of haunt me sometimes, because I'm like, she could foresee what was coming that I couldn't foresee. So I think at the foundation of my work, it's about helping women realize self-preservation is first and foremost. We have to take care of our minds and our bodies. And some of that is being attentive to what we put in our mouth and looking at the things we put in our mouth as fuel.
Gin doesn't count. It's totally healthy for us.
Right.
Just a little bit of gin. Okay, we're going to have a sip of
A
this.
little bit of gin is, you know, but we're having gin in a social, fun
Yeah, it's not like we're
way.
taking a
It's
bottle and
right.
down
And
it.
we're not, you know, we're not trying to
But you're
numb our
right. It
feelings.
depends on what you put in, who you hang out with, what you listen to, and what and the people you hang out with.
Absolutely. And then paying attention to our feelings and not suppressing our feelings, but tuning into them and letting it be okay to express our feelings. And, you know, I think for me, through this hair loss journey, I've always been a very highly sensitive person and highly emotional. And if you cry, I'm going to cry. And, you know, so sharing my story about hair loss was really hard at first. And I had a hard time getting through some of those stories without just bawling, you know. So looking at this foundation of self-preservation and then giving opportunities for women to come in and do a reset. So the Self-Care Bootcamps I will continue to offer. The retreats just absolutely fill my soul. I love everything about hosting these retreats. I pour my heart and soul into them, and I see the transformations that happen. So looking forward, I know in my not too distant future, I will lead a group of women back to that resort in Greece where it really kicked off for me.
Yeah.
That's my vision, is to take Self-Care Bootcamp to Greece and then to other international destinations. And then I'm also working on a signature program that really centers around that core of self first. And it'll be an online program, a group coaching program, so that other women who aren't in Omaha can begin to plug in and learn these tools and have exposure to all of these different modalities to help them in putting themselves first and taking care of themselves. And I think about it and I think, you know, there's a huge self-care industry out there right now, multi-million-dollar industry. You think about massages and pedicures and, you know, all of the things that we can buy, you know, the bubble baths and the essential oils and, you know, crystals and all of these things. And I love all of those things. I really do love all of those things. But oftentimes those things just become Band-Aids. And so you can go, and I've heard this from women who say, I'm doing the massages, I'm going to a therapist, I'm going through all of the motions, I'm doing all of the things that are in the category of self-care, but I don't feel better. So there must be something wrong with me that I don't feel better. And so a big part of my program teaches that you might enjoy going and getting a massage,
Yes.
but that might not fill my cup. And so it's about coming up with your own self-care compass that helps you to know, a values-based program that helps you to know when you are misaligned and what your true north is, so that you know when you're misaligned where to go back to, that's like your true north, your set of tools that are going to help you come back into alignment.
I love the compass. I told her from day one when I heard that, I love the compass. All right, in 30 seconds or less, someone's out there and they're watching you and they're like, I'm afraid. I don't want to tell the world that I'm going to take off my wig, that I am bald, that I am going through this, what's it called?
Alopecia.
Alopecia. 30 seconds, 20 seconds or less, what can you tell them to help them? Just look at the camera and tell them.
I would say do what works for you. Many women choose to take their hair off and just go bald and present themselves to the world. I enjoy hair, and now I'm a blonde. And so you have to do what helps you feel comfortable. And if wearing hair, wearing a wig boosts your confidence, that's great. And then you also have to work on what's on the inside, because there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of loss, and those are natural feelings. And so find yourself a community of women who can listen to you, see you, hear you, and validate you.
Thank you for being my guest. I knew she would be wonderful, audience. I knew she would.
Are we done already?
We're done.
Wow.
Okay. Remember, ladies, to be you. Find your tribe, find your people, find your community, but be you. It's easier to be you than try to be someone else. And let's go make a difference in the world. Thank you.